I visited Louisville, Kentucky on June 26th and 27th, 2021. Just for the record, I didn't see any cousins kissing each other and I didn't see anyone with missing teeth. Nonetheless, I split up the city and Jefferson County into 13 sections where I'll be able to show the entire city within a series of just over a dozen videos. In this series of videos, you'll see all of the good and all of the bad. So why not share a fifth of bourbon with your best bud or gal and come along to see the entire city of Louisville, Kentucky. For this video, I'm going to be going through the west side of Louisville, one of the rougher parts of the city. You see a lot of violent crime out this way, but not all of it is bad. You got some nice gyms, you got a couple of nice parks, I suppose. But the most interesting thing on this side of town is definitely Muhammad Ali's childhood home, and we'll see it in this video. Well, let's get to it. This is my second video of 13 total on Louisville, Kentucky. They tell visitors to stay away from the west side, so I went there. Here you can see the part of the city that I focus on for this particular video. I mean, there really isn't much of a reason to venture out this way, unless you're wanting to see Muhammad Ali's childhood home. However, the Ohio River sets the boundaries towards the north and west, while to the south it's Algonquin Parkway for a portion, and then it's Hill Street. To the east, the boundaries are set by 9th and 15th Streets. Just a reminder, as I know that these videos tend to run pretty long, but that's what you have to do if you're going to show an entire area, right? Nonetheless, if you're wanting to skip ahead and see a certain part of this video, I've listed the timestamps down below, like I do with all my videos. Some of the highlights of this video are the Parkland Neighborhood, the Russell Neighborhood, where you'll find the more shocking abandoned buildings, Central High School, where Muhammad Ali went, along with Muhammad Ali's childhood home. I begin the video at Lannon Memorial Park, which is just north of the Parkland Neighborhood. The Parkland Neighborhood will be the first one that we go through in this video. Really quick, as I'd appreciate it if you could give this video a like, comment, and if you could subscribe if you haven't already, as doing all of those things helps these videos destroy the evil monster that is the YouTube algorithm. Also make sure to hit that notification bell so that you can be notified every time that I upload a new video. If you enjoyed this video, you might enjoy checking out some of the featured playlists on this channel. Videos with amazing insights on other places like what you see here can be found in my Louisville playlist, my Kentucky playlist, or in my American Hoods playlist. Last but not least, if you can't get enough of me on here, you can always go follow me on my other social media accounts, and those links are below. And this is the Parkland Neighborhood. To the left behind this row of houses is I-64, which we just passed under. I-64 and a railroad line dominate the riverfront west of downtown and cut off river access for the Parkland neighborhood. To the right here is a historic landmark called the U.S. Marine Hospital. The building was built in 1845 and was listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1997. However, back to talking about the riverfront. Today there's only enough room along the riverfront for a few small parks here and there, but even those smaller parks along the river have limited access to the Parkland neighborhood, as I-64 and the railroad stand between them. After I-64 crosses the Ohio River towards Indiana, the riverfront is more accessible for the other west side neighborhoods, as it features a golf course along with several larger parks, only to be followed by a cluster of polluting industries. The city, however, has tried to make up for it in recent years, as a plan is in place for a 100-mile-long walk/bike path that's called the Louisville Loop. A portion of the trail follows the riverfront through the Parkland neighborhood. Portland does have a unique history for being a neighborhood, and we can talk about it throughout the video, but unfortunately today, and for much of recent memory, Portland has been among the most poverty-stricken neighborhoods in Louisville, and it's been one of the most dangerous. As we take a quick look at the most up-to-date crime map of Louisville at the time of me editing this video, you might be saying,
"But there's crime everywhere in Louisville, Chris. You can't just single out the west side. Crime can be found anywhere if that's all you're ever looking for."
To that, I'll tell you to pump the brakes, as when you narrow down the types of crime that occur, you can see that it's the west side that sees a good majority of the violent crime that occurs throughout the city. This homicide map also shows that most murders in Louisville so far throughout 2021 have occurred in either Portland or other west side neighborhoods. As we continue with this video, you'll see plenty of things that are commonly seen among most inner-city poverty-stricken hoods throughout the U.S., including razor blade fences, what appears to be gang-ridden graffiti, trash on the streets, and obviously the occasional boarded-up and abandoned building. When you factor in the stats for the Parkland neighborhood, you'll see that the economics are quite troubling. The neighborhood is home to over 10,000 residents, and the median household income is only $27,000 per year. Only 4% of adults 25 and older hold a bachelor's degree or higher, and the median value of owner-occupied housing units is $48,000. The poverty rate is incredibly high at 39%, which is nearly 4 times the national average rate. Some added stats, as the Parkland neighborhood is a part of 2 different Louisville zip codes. The eastern portion where we are is a part of the 40203 zip code. Once you cross 21st Street going west, you're in the 40212 zip code. In the 40203 zip code, you'll see that the zip code has weird boundaries, as it includes a portion of the Parkland neighborhood, but also includes the Old Louisville neighborhood to the south of downtown, which is actually pretty nice, but it also includes several sketchy neighborhoods that surround Old Louisville. The 40203 zip code is home to 18,000 residents and has a median household income of only $20,000 per year. 18% of adults 25 and older hold a bachelor's degree or higher, and the median value of owner-occupied housing units is double that of just Parkland, as it's $95,000. The poverty rate is still incredibly high at 37%.
I live here with my family, and as a household we make 60 grand. That median household income stat is a lie. How dare you make us look worse than we actually are?
Good for you, my guy. You're among the top moneymakers for your neighborhood. Unfortunately, not everyone here is like you, and, just my opinion, you might be able to make 70 grand if you knew what the word median meant. Anyway, we have now passed into the 40212 zip code. The zip code is home to 16,800 residents and has a median household income of $28,000 per year. Only 8% of adults hold a bachelor's degree or higher, and the median value of owner-occupied housing units is $71,000. The poverty rate is still incredibly high, being at a percentage that is more than triple the poverty rate of the United States as a whole. Sure, some of these houses still appear to be in good shape, but it's hard to ignore the abundance of homes that are abandoned and boarded up. We also just passed the Portland Museum, which is located between some houses, and it's kind of hard to see from the road, but it's good to see that there's a museum here. The museum opened in 1978 and illustrates the history of the Parkland neighborhood going back to when it was its own independent city, along with some art exhibits. On to the history of Portland. The city was founded in 1811 right at the location of the Falls of the Ohio, where a string of natural rapids once occupied the Ohio River before human engineering made the river more navigable for ships. Portland was one of 6 cities that blossomed in this area, along with Shippingport and Louisville in Kentucky, and New Albany, Clarksville, and Jeffersonville in Indiana. Portland's founder, General William Little, planned on building a canal around the falls, with the falls being the only obstacle along the Ohio River. Portland continued to grow along with Louisville and the other 4 cities due to the shipping industry. Louisville and Portland were economic rivals, and the road that I've been on for most of this video, which is called Portland Avenue, was originally called the Louisville and Portland Turnpike. In 1834, Portland was incorporated as a city, but it was annexed by Louisville in 1837. The canal soon opened up after that to bypass the falls, and it was known as Portland's Wharf. In 1937, the largest flood in the area's history swept through and destroyed all of Portland that was close to the river. Another major flood occurred in 1945, which encouraged engineers to build a flood wall that was up to 3 feet higher than the 1937 flood. Over time, Portland has continued to decline as people continue to flee the neighborhood, which all started in the 1940s, as the floods are believed to be the reason why the wealthy people have left. History is good and neat and all that good stuff, but today Portland is not a desirable neighborhood in Louisville to live in, as it's one of Louisville's most crime-ridden and poverty-stricken neighborhoods, and it has been for a long time. Like most inner city hoods in the US, there's a collection of unique older homes with architecture that you'll never see in homes that are built today. Looks like that was a multi-family building, but you get the point. Another thing that I haven't yet talked about in this video is the complicated mess that is the Louisville city limits. In 2004, Louisville merged with all of Jefferson County, which formed the Louisville Metro government. There are still 83 independent municipalities within Jefferson County, but most of them are pretty small. The move was put in place with the idea that it would help the city become more competitive with cities like nearby Indianapolis and Cincinnati, as Louisville was home to only 256,000 residents in the year 2000. The merger might have made the population number for the city of Louisville appear to be bigger, but that didn't really change the population count of the metro area as a whole, so that's why I never really buy into the fact of a city-county merger working. Nonetheless, the parts of Louisville that I drive through throughout this entire video is all a part of the city limits that made up Louisville before the merger. With that said, when you look at the population of Louisville today, you wouldn't think of Louisville as a city that has lost population. However, a deeper look into it shows that before the merger, Louisville was losing a good chunk of population every 10 years since 1970. From what I looked up, the city of Louisville was known for having higher taxes than other places within Jefferson County, which encouraged people with money to move outside of the city. White flight was also a factor, and Louisville definitely isn't the only U.S. city that experienced those problems. The city lost over 130,000 residents in the course of 30 years, or 34% of Louisville's original peak population. The urban blight shows in neighborhoods like Portland and the other West Side neighborhoods that we go through in this video. I'm sure some people will jump to the comment sections and say crap like,
"You think this is bad? You should go to Detroit or Gary, Indiana."
To that I say let's not jump to extremes here. I have acknowledged and will continue to acknowledge that there are some really nice homes here still, but I also believe that most people can see that this area isn't what it used to be. Some blocks and streets out this way you'll find that some people are able to live in peace, but at other street corners you'll find out that things like drug deals and prostitution take place on a regular basis. I'll talk more about the crime in just a few seconds, but if you couldn't tell that the West Side is Louisville's most crime-ridden part of town from the crime maps that I showed, I can't help you. Nonetheless, back to when Louisville was losing a good chunk of people every 10 years, data suggests that most of those people only moved towards outside of the city limits, which is the case with many metro areas, as Jefferson County as a whole you can see here only saw a couple of census counts that showed population declines, and none of those population declines were as sharp as the city of Louisville. Now it's time to dive deeper into the crime stats, as Portland, along with other West Side neighborhoods such as Russell and California that we will go through, are all very similar in terms of crime rates and poverty. Now, a lot of inner cities have been seeing spikes in violent crime for 2021, so Louisville is not alone, and the most recent data available for crime rates is from 2019, and here you can see that overall, the city of Louisville sees both a violent and property crime rate that is nearly double the national average rate. That rate isn't as bad as many other cities that are the size of Louisville or bigger, but if Louisville hadn't merged with Jefferson County, those crime rates would undoubtedly be higher. Louisville in 2021 is on pace to break its own record for homicides as it reached 100 in June. For comparison, in 2020, Louisville reached 100 homicides in August, having a total of 173 for the year. Before the pandemic came along and encouraged this spike in violent crime everywhere, data shows that Louisville was already seeing a rise in homicides, as in 2013 the city had only 48, but that count more than doubled in 2016 over the course of only 3 years, at 117. The numbers went down some after 2016, but not to the levels that they were before, and then in 2020 violence in Louisville saw a record high, and a new record is bound to be set for the year 2021 when it's all said and done. Many of the homes that you see here along Bank Street are what they call shotgun homes. The style of housing is small in nature, and they get their name from back in the day when the claim was that you could shoot a bullet through the front door and it would exit through the back without hitting anything due to the interior designs of the homes. In 2021, that would be politically incorrect, obviously, if the style of housing were invented today, but that's why they're called shotgun homes. The style of housing was popular in the southern United States. You can also find blocks of shotgun homes in Chicago, along with other places in the U.S. that aren't in the South. As we turn south here, we eventually exit the Parkland neighborhood once we pass Market Street. Along this stretch is a group of warehouses. Some are in use while some are not. 2 blocks west of here are some railroad tracks that cross the Ohio River into Indiana, so it makes sense that this is an industrial zoned area. During the Civil War, Louisville was a major military supplier due to its location along the Ohio River, and I doubt that many of these warehouses date back towards the pre-Civil War era, but it's possible that some of them do. We are now in the Russell neighborhood, which was occupied by some of the wealthier Louisville residents when it was first built. There are several larger houses that reflect those times that still stand here today, but over time, just like Portland, it's become poverty-stricken and crime-ridden. That's where you'll see more of the abandoned and burnt-out buildings, and if you want to skip ahead to that part, go ahead and check out the timestamps below. You can see a lot of neighborhood pride expressed in the form of art alongside many of the buildings here in the Russell and Portland neighborhoods, which is pretty cool to see. Art like what you saw earlier is created to try and bring some hope and positive vibes to communities like this one in hopes to drown out the way too many sites that you see that are like this. I've said it before, but I'll say it again, it's pretty hard to ignore the amount of blocks that we come across in this video that are just full of trash. Ahead on the right is the football stadium for Central High School, home of the Yellow Jackets. We'll get around to the actual school building of Central High School later in the video, and I'll talk more about it then. Here we cross back into the Parkland neighborhood. Nice mural of a waterfall here. I'm assuming that it was painted here to make the area look a little bit nicer with all of the razor blade fences and vacant lots nearby. I hope that wasn't supposed to be inspired by the Falls of the Ohio, as that used to only be a stretch of rapids across the river, nothing like a real waterfall or anything. Nonetheless, this is where we start seeing a lot of the real grimy and ghetto stuff. This is Western Middle School of the Arts, but I'll talk about it more when I pass by more of the building. It appears to be abandoned with the boarded up front doors, but apparently school is still in session here. We'll see more parts of Louisville that look like the couple of blocks that we just saw on Main Street later in the video. Once again, you can check out the timestamps down below if you only want to see those parts. It looks like this building up here on the left is a furniture warehouse. Main Street continues west only a little bit further, but the construction closure really messed up my plans and caused some brief confusion on my end, but I've come to expect the unexpected at times whenever I go out and explore. We are in the far southwestern portion of the Parkland neighborhood, but as I mentioned, the construction closure caused me some confusion. When I go out and film these videos, I follow a list of addresses that I plan out before going out, and Google Maps at the time of me filming this video didn't recognize the multiple street closures that were in this area, and I was trusting Google Maps maybe a little bit too much in this case. The closure, however, did ruin the plans just a little bit on what all I was going to show for this video. But anyway, this street looks like it's seen better days. And yeah, I couldn't turn left there either. Nor could I turn left here. But at least this way you get to see more of the heart of the Parkland neighborhood and not just the parts that are along the main one-way thoroughfares. Straight ahead, you can see some more of the nice houses that have been left behind. At this point, I drove along a stretch of street that we've already seen, so I skipped the video ahead to a part that we haven't yet seen. Earlier, I passed by this school while driving along Main Street, but here we get a better view of the whole building. This is Western Middle School of the Arts and is a part of the Jefferson County Public Schools. Every bit of research on this place shows that this is still a running school with an address of 2201 West Main Street, and there are no news articles on this place ever closing. Maybe since it was summer, they were doing some renovations on the building, or maybe the building was temporarily closed throughout the pandemic. But despite the boarded up entryways into the school seems to be still in session. As I continue to head south on 22nd Street, which I do for quite a while, you'll see that the neighborhood continues to look rougher the further we go along. Since we crossed Market Street, we once again leave the Parkland neighborhood and enter the Russell neighborhood. The population of Russell is 9,100 and the median household income is $21,000 per year. Only 5% of adults 25 and older hold a bachelor's degree or higher, and the median value of owner-occupied housing units is $63,000. The Louisville City website states that the poverty rates in Russell are 58%, with 60% of the residents receiving food stamps. Unfortunately, there are many good people who live here that are suffering through poverty, but high poverty rates usually encourages high crime rates, and the Russell neighborhood is no exception to those high crime rates. The eastern half of Russell lies within the 40203 zip code, which shares its boundaries with the eastern half of the Parkland neighborhood and some of the neighborhoods that are just south of downtown. The western half of Russell is within the 40211 zip code, which is where we are, and this zip code is home to 22,800 residents, while the median household income is just under $30,000 per year. Only 9% of adults 25 and older hold a bachelor's degree or higher, and the median value of owner-occupied housing units is $77,000. The poverty rate is the lowest out of the zip codes that make up the west side of Louisville, and you could attribute that to the zip code also being home to the nicer Chickasaw neighborhood and parts of the nicer Shawnee neighborhood. Now that we cross Broadway, we're in the California neighborhood. This neighborhood is home to just over 5,000 residents, and the median household income is only $26,000 per year. Reportedly, only 1% of adults 25 and older hold a bachelor's degree or higher, and the median value of owner-occupied housing units is only $47,000. The poverty rate is also incredibly high in this west side neighborhood, as it's at 46%. This right here might be the largest stretch of vacant land that I come across in this video. If you haven't figured it out, Louisville has a lot of neighborhoods. We are now in the Park Hill neighborhood, which is home to 6,100 residents, and the median household income is $22,000 per year. Only 5% of adults 25 and older hold a bachelor's degree or higher, and the median value of owner-occupied housing units is $49,000. Once again, this neighborhood has an incredibly high poverty rate of 52%, and just like the other neighborhoods that we've been through, Park Hill has been a hotspot for crime. Here at the intersection of Hill Street and Dixie Highway, a study was done in 2019 by a local TV station, Wave 3 News. The study showed an undercover reporter highlighting the drug deals and prostitution that goes on at this particular intersection, at least what went on back in 2019. If you're interested in seeing a video on this particular story, I've attached another YouTube video in the description below. I doubt this is the only place where that goes on in the city, and if it doesn't go on here anymore, it's still probably going on at many other places within the city on this side of town. Here on the right is the Columbian School. There isn't much online about this school, but it is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Currently, we're in the heart of the California neighborhood, and up ahead we'll be passing by some abandoned warehouses. Sometimes when I find the addresses for these abandoned warehouses in these cities, I'm able to find news stories explaining what happened to them. For Louisville, I haven't been able to find much for many of these vacant buildings, and it's hard to tell what their purpose once was. I'm sure plenty of locals would know. Now that we're crossing Broadway, we're once again in the Russell neighborhood. And you can see more artwork up top displaying some neighborhood pride. And here to the right is Central High School, home of the Yellow Jackets. Originally, the school was only for African Americans until the United States made it illegal for cities to racially segregate schools, with the famous Topeka, Kansas case of Brown versus Board of Education in 1954. In 1956, the Louisville schools officially desegregated. I'm serious here, by the way, as the school used to be called Central Colored High School in the late 19th and early 20th century. We can all agree that we've come a long way since then. In more recent history, the school won the 3A football state championship in 2007, where Ty Scorgans became the first black head coach to win a state championship in Kentucky. The school has also won several basketball state championships. Among the most notable alumni of Central High School includes NBA player D'Angelo Russell, NFL wide receiver Keelan Cole, and of course, Muhammad Ali, who graduated from Central in 1960. Up ahead, you'll see even more urban ruins. I've crossed this particular warehouse several times now, coming at it from different street angles, and on this angle I was able to capture the signage which says the Louisville Plate Glass Company Incorporated. The company was founded in 1911 and is the longest-serving provider of architectural glass products in the Midwest and in the Mid-South region. The smaller white building close to the railroad tracks was used as the company's headquarters all the way through 2016, when it was bought by a larger Florida-based company. Today, the Louisville Glass Company is located in a more modern facility located within nearby Watterson Park. It's amazing, as the smaller white building appears to have been abandoned for more like 2 decades rather than 4 years. I haven't been able to find out how long the attached larger warehouse has been vacant. We are now in the Chickasaw neighborhood, which you could say is the nicest neighborhood on the city's west side today. The population is 8,900 and the median household income is $33,000 per year. Only 5% of adults here hold a bachelor's degree or higher, while the median value of owner-occupied housing units is $71,000. The poverty rate is still really high, but it's lower than the other West Side neighborhoods at 24%. Crime is also of less occurrence in the Chickasaw neighborhood than it is in the Portland, Russell, California, and Park Hill neighborhoods. That's not to say that drug usage, violent and property crimes don't occur in Chickasaw, but it is better in that matter than the other nearby neighborhoods. Not too far north of here is the intersection of Market Street and Southwestern Parkway. At that spot there used to be a theme park that was called Fontaine Ferry. The park operated from 1905 to 1969 and featured over 4 different roller coasters throughout the years. Until 1964, however, African Americans were not allowed inside the park. The park only remained open for 5 years while being open to African Americans. In 1969, the park was heavily vandalized by riots on opening day, forcing the park's closure. Today, there are no remains left on the grounds where the park once stood, as part of it is a housing development and the rest is a city park. Whoa there, FedEx driver. I guess we're just backing up in the middle of streets regardless of whether or not traffic is behind you? What's so bad about parking a few spots ahead and walking a little bit further? This is the Shawnee neighborhood that we are currently in, which is sometimes referred to as Shawnee Land. Shawnee is home to 12,000 residents today, and the median household income is $28,000 per year. Only 6% of adults 25 and older hold a bachelor's degree or higher, and the median value of owner-occupied housing units is $67,000. The poverty rate once again is pretty high at 28%. Last but not least, it's time to head towards the childhood home of Muhammad Ali. And up ahead on the right is the childhood home of Muhammad Ali. The historical marker reads, Muhammad Ali's home site, Cassius Marcellus Clay Jr., which was the birth-given name to Muhammad Ali, was born on January 17, 1942 at Louisville General Hospital. He grew up and lived here at 3302 Grand Avenue with his parents, Odessa and Cassius Clay Sr., and his brother Rudolph. All attended public schools that were mostly black, including Central High School. The house was up for sale in very poor condition back in 2012. However, with the help of his brother, the founders of the Muhammad Ali Childhood Home Museum were able to restore the house to excellent condition. The home opened for tours in 2016, but closed a year later in 2017 due to financial hardships. A recent article from WDRB that was posted in November of 2020 announced that efforts were underway to reopen the Childhood Home Museum in the fall of 2021, and it would be cool if that were able to happen. If not, at least the house can stay in solid condition for the time being. In this video, you saw some of, if not the worst areas of Louisville. Not all of the West Side is bad, and the West Side is certainly not without its own interesting history, which I tried to highlight throughout the video, and it's also not to say that there aren't other parts of town that aren't bad either, as parts of the South Side can be bad, and parts around Churchill Downs has much to be desired. Nonetheless, I do end the video here. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to drop a like, comment, and subscribe, as doing all of those things helps these videos destroy the monster that is the YouTube algorithm. Also make sure to hit that notification bell so that you can be notified every time that I upload a new video. If you enjoyed this video, you might enjoy checking out some of the featured playlists on this channel. Videos with amazing insights on other places like what you saw here can be found in my Louisville playlist or in my American Hoods playlist. Last but not least, if you can't get enough of me on here, you can always go follow me on my other social media accounts, and those links are below. We'll see you next time. Peace!